Chapter 15, God refuses Saul as king. Verse 2, the most powerful Lord. See chapter 1 verse 3. God is the ruler of everything and that He made. God is the true captain of the Israelite army. God made their army successful. The Amalekites lived in the land that was between southern Israel and the country of Egypt. They did not build many towns. Instead, they lived in tents. They wandered about the land. They attacked the Israelites and many other nations. The Amalekites stole animals and crops from the farms in those nations. You can read how the Amalekites tried to stop the Israelites in Exodus chapter 17 verses 8 to 16. So God said that He would destroy the Amalekites completely. Exodus chapter 17 verse 14 and Deuteronomy chapter 25 verses 17 to 19. This was God's war. God is holy. The Amalekites were evil. Verse 18. They opposed God. So God decided completely destroy them. God did not always do this with Israel's army. God did it with the town of Jericho in Joshua 6. God gave very clear commands in verse 3. He said, "Do not save anything." No one could misunderstand what God meant. The Kenites probably lived near or with the Amalekites. They had not opposed God. Some of the Kenites lived with the Israelites. See Judges chapter 1 verse 16. Saul did not want to kill them by mistake. God gave Saul success in his battles. In many battles, God let the Israelite army keep the animals or goods that they seized. Sometimes Saul and his army seized the king and put him in prison. This showed other nations the Israelites had the most powerful leader. But this time, God wanted to punish Amalekites. Saul did not understand God's promise. Saul did not obey God's clear commands. Instead, Saul did what he thought was right and good. God had given the Israelites the type of king that they wanted. God wanted the king of the Israelites to follow and obey Him completely. He wanted a king that he could trust. God wanted the king to love him. He wanted a king to give him honor. But Saul did not behave like this. God was sad that Saul did not obey him. Samuel was very sad about this too. In chapters 10 and 11, we see that Saul was a humble man, but Saul became proud. He was proud of his success in the battles. He did not give God the honor. Saul probably made the column from stone. Everyone who saw it would give Saul the honor. In verses 13, Saul said, "I have obeyed the Lord's command." But this was not true. Saul had not obeyed all the commands that God had told him to do. Perhaps he had told a lie on purpose, or perhaps he thought that he had obeyed enough. When Samuel demanded an answer, Saul blamed the soldiers. Verses 15 and verse 21. Saul gave an excuse. He said that the soldiers wanted to sacrifice the animals to God. In fact, the soldiers probably wanted to keep the animals for themselves. Saul led the army. He should have commanded the men to kill all the animals. Saul used the phrase, "The Lord your God." He did not say, "The Lord our God." Saul knew that he did not follow God now. He did not follow Him as he used to. God had commanded the Israelites to give Him offerings and sacrifices. Leviticus chapter 1 to 7. This was how God forgave their sins. But God cannot forgive a person who refused to obey Him. If a person did not obey God, their sacrifice had no value. When a person does not obey God, they sin. The Bible calls this sin rebellion. Verse 23 gives us a very serious warning. Evil magic comes from the devil. Rebellion is as bad as evil magic. People who worship idols did not give honor to God. They think that the idol is better than God. A proud person thinks that he is a best person. He gives honor to himself. He does not give honor to God or worship Him alone. At last, Saul confessed that he had sinned, but he did not realize that God would not change his decision. So Samuel had to repeat what God had said. Saul sinned because he was afraid of the people, so he did what they said instead of what God commanded. This was a foolish way to behave. The way to become wise is to fear the Lord. Proverbs chapter 9 verse 10. This fear means to respect the Lord Yahweh and to obey Him and to give Him all the honor. Verses 27 and 28 are like picture language. Saul had turned away from following the Lord. The Lord did not want the Israelites to turn away from Him too. The kingdom means the people and the land that Saul ruled as king. The new king of the country is usually the son of the previous king. But God took His authority away from Saul. God gave it to one of Saul's neighbor, not to one of his family. This man was David. David was better than Saul, and because David obeyed the Lord Yahweh. The Lord is the glory of Israel. This means that the Lord lives forever. This emphasizes that God is not like people. He has very different qualities from theirs. Saul realized then that nothing could change God's decision. Saul did not want Samuel to leave him. Saul said that he wanted to worship the Lord, but Saul really wanted Samuel to give him honor. Saul wanted the people to think that nothing had changed. Everything is the same. Samuel changed his decision the second time that Saul asked. He went back with Saul. Saul worshipped the Lord, but Samuel did the job that Saul should have done. He killed Agag. Agag thought that he would not have to die, but Samuel punished Agag because he had killed so many people. After this, Samuel left Saul. They lived only 16 kilometers, that is 10 miles apart. Samuel never went to visit Saul again because God had refused him as king. Samuel was as sad about Saul as if he had died, and the Lord was sad about the first king of Israel too. Saul continued to rule Israel until he died many years later. But from this day, Saul had many problems, and he was not a good leader.